live in a period of time in which change is accelerating to a furious degree. And I'm going to take you on a tour of the trends which are going to change your world, in which you need to align yourself to in order to take advantage of opportunity. I am spending so much time with so many industries who are trying to figure out what do we do in a world in which suddenly the rules no longer apply, in which suddenly the industry that I knew and loved is being subjected to dramatic overestimate the rate of change that will occur on a 2-year basis, and underestimate how much change will occur on a 10-year basis. Think about what is going on. There are so many trends. It's coming at us from so many different directions. There is so much disruption occurring that increasingly history, size, legacy does not define our success. The challenges are vast. The trends are significant. The speed is staggering. All of us feel overwhelmed by a fast-paced future. My advice to you is this: think big, start small, scale fast. As a futurist, I always need to focus on the opportunity. Look, I can't walk out here on stage and say, guess what, your future sucks, it's over, forget it. You won't get a lot of repeat business. Studio. Look, I got up this morning and the thought that was running through my mind when I was putting my daily inspiration together was, I'm surrounded by people who think too small about the future. There are too many people who are too limited in terms of their understanding of just how much change we are going to see in the next decade. And as a futurist, this has always been a challenge, but things have sped up to an incredible degree. That's partly driven by the pandemic, but it is also driven by the fact that all of these trends, which we've been talking about for years, are accelerating and coming together all at once. And so I went on a bit of a rant this morning in the context of a graph. Now, what happens every morning is I get up and I take some photo, previously in my pre-COVID life, some photo from a stage somewhere, and I would wrap an inspiration or future-oriented quote around it, and I would put that out to my social media networks. Well, today, what I do is I take a virtual stage set picture and I roll into it some type of inspirational or future-oriented quote. Today was based around this graph. Now, what is happening in this graph? It's something that I saw on the weekend, and it is, in essence, the cost to deliver payload into space going from the 1960s up to what is happening with the Falcon X Heavy from SpaceX. And this was put out by a fellow I follow on Twitter, and he was making the point that, look, you know, SpaceX, space exploration, all these private space companies, we are witnessing dramatic change, and we really need to think big and bold about where this might take us in the future, because as we see a collapse in the cost of payload, that is simply astronomical. I mean, we might be dealing with a situation in which the cost per pound is 1/1000th of what it was just several years ago. This opens up all kinds of new opportunities in terms of asteroid mining, in-space pharmaceutical manufacturing, space tourism, so much more. But look, I'm surrounded by people who limit their minds and their understanding of what can come next. As a futurist, I am always working to ensure that I can align myself to massive opportunities. It also aligns to the reality of what I'm doing down here in the home broadcast studio. I figure I am now about 4,000 hours in since last February in working down here, going live like this, working with stage sets, understanding how to bring in all kinds of different content and research, so I can go from a green room like this to something like this in just a heartbeat. Because I think part of what is happening is the whole concept of leadership insight, the whole conference industry, the global event industry, the whole process by which organizations are sharing insight on what they need to do to think big and bold is obviously changing. It's changing in a very significant way. And so I want to ask you today, are you thinking too small in terms of where we might be going in the future? Are you thinking too small in terms of the scope of the opportunities that are unfolding in our world today? And that goes to the context of the photo I actually used in my daily inspiration this morning. I went out on a variety of stock footage sites in search of a photo that would capture the mindset, capture the concept that I was trying to get across, and this is the one that I found. A little guy in a tricycle with a rocket strapped to his back, dreaming big and bold about the future. And the context in which I wrote about this was what I responded to in this tweet that this fellow had yesterday about SpaceX, payloads, and what we can do in terms of launching stuff into space. Tomorrow's nonsense, today's nonsense is often tomorrow's reality. I mean, we're in a situation in which the crazy ideas that you are hearing about today, if you are of a mindset that you're going to discount them because they are a crazy idea, that's not how to think about the future anymore, because we could have a situation where a kid in a tricycle with a rocket in their back, today's nonsense, tomorrow's reality, who knows? We are in a world in which anything is possible, anything is conceivable, and we could be in a situation with space exploration taking us to new and fantastic worlds. And that's my job as a futurist, to take the big, bold, crazy ideas and put them into the context of a reality that might be coming. Here's a reality. One of the quotes that I used years ago is that we are in a situation in which companies that do not yet exist will build products not yet conceived, using materials not yet invented, with methodologies not yet in existence. Are you ready for the reality of what comes next? Or are you thinking too small in terms of our future? You need to think big, you need to think bold, you need to realize that you can't limit your imagination in terms of where we are going and what comes next. If you want to get into my head with the thought process that I go through every single morning since August 2016, very first thing I do in the morning is I get up, I think about the future, I think about trends, I think about disruption, I think about being big and bold, and I wrap that into a daily inspirational quote, inspiration.jimcarroll.com. I'm up to about 1,600 of these. I have not missed one since August 2016, every single workday. And it's simply a unique and innovative way to think about the future, think about what comes next, and inspiring you to think bigger about your future, because it's probably likely that you're thinking way too small. That's it for now. Futurist Jim Carroll from the home broadcast studio. Oh, and look at that. I had an extra slide in there, and this is where all that magic that you just saw happens in the virtual broadcast studio. Over and out, Jim Carroll.